Hi, you're watching 13th Whisper. The line between truth and terror is thinner than you think, and today we're going to cross it. Subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and share it with your friends. Some stories don't like being told. Let's begin. Voices from below. Anna had always dreamed of a quiet life away from the city. When her husband, Mike, inherited an old house in rural upstate New York from a distant uncle he barely remembered, she saw it as a sign. The house sat at the edge of a dense forest, surrounded by a sagging picket fence, its paint peeling and porch creaking underfoot. Inside, it smelled of damp wood and mildew. But Anna saw potential. Mike, ever the pragmatist, agreed to move in only because selling the rundown place seemed harder than fixing it up. The first few days were a blur of unpacking and repairs, hauling out broken chairs, wiping grime from cracked windows, and wrestling with a rusty wood stove. At night, the house was wrapped in silence, broken only by the rustle of leaves outside and the occasional hoot of an owl. Anna loved falling asleep to those sounds, feeling the chaos of urban life slip away. But on the third night, everything changed. She woke to a faint rustling. At first, she thought it was mice. Old houses like this were bound to have them. But the rustling turned into whispering, soft, indistinct, like someone murmuring under their breath. Anna nudged Mike awake. "Do you hear that?" she whispered, straining to listen. Mike, groggy and annoyed, propped himself up on an elbow. Hear what? Probably the wind. Go back to sleep. But the whispering didn't stop. It wasn't coming from the walls. It was rising from beneath the floorboards. Anna pulled the blanket up to her chin, a chill creeping down her spine. Mike, sensing her unease, sighed and flicked on the bedside lamp. The room filled with dim yellow light from the ancient bulb. The whispering faded, but the feeling of being watched lingered. The next morning, Anna brought it up over coffee. Mike brushed it off, as usual. "You were dreaming," he said, sipping from a chipped mug. "Or, it's the pipes. This place is ancient. Everything creaks and groans." But Anna couldn't shake it. All day, she wandered the house, listening for any hint of the sound. The floorboards squeaked under her feet, but nothing stood out. She even tapped on the floor in the bedroom, just a hollow thud. Mike, noticing her growing anxiety, promised to check the crawl space under the house, but only after he finished patching the leaky roof. That night, the whispering came back. Louder this time, clearer. Anna could make out words. "Where are you?" repeated in a thin, childlike voice. She shook Mike awake again, and this time he heard it too. His face paled, though he quickly masked it with a scowl. "It's just an echo," he muttered, though his voice wavered. "Or maybe some kids messing around outside." At 3 in the morning, in the middle of nowhere, Anna shot him a skeptical look. Mike didn't answer. Instead, he rolled out of bed, yanked on his boots, and grabbed a flashlight. Anna followed, wrapping herself in a blanket. They stepped onto the porch, but beyond the windows stretched only darkness and the rustling of trees. No kids, no neighbors. The nearest house was miles away. The whispering stopped as soon as they left the bedroom, but Anna felt it waiting for them to return. The next day, Mike took action. Armed with a crowbar and a hammer, he decided to pry up a few floorboards in the bedroom. Anna hovered nearby, nervously twisting the hem of her sleeve. "If it's mice, I'll deal with them," he grumbled, wedging the crowbar under the first board. The plank popped loose with a dry crack, revealing a dark gap. Mike shone the flashlight down. It wasn't just a crawl space. There was a small room below, its earthen walls lined with old crates and rags. The air smelled of mold and something faintly metallic. Anna covered her nose, but curiosity outweighed her fear. They descended a rickety wooden ladder Mike found buried under dust. Inside, it was cold, like a root cellar. The flashlight beam caught odd shapes, worn-out dolls with faded faces, wooden toy horses, rusted tin cans. Against one wall hung a large mirror in a cracked frame. Mike stepped closer and aimed the light at it. The reflection stared back, pale, tired, with dark circles under their eyes. But something was wrong. Anna noticed it first. "Mike, look at your reflection," she whispered. He frowned and peered closer. His reflection was grinning, a wide, unnatural smirk, while Mike's real face remained grim. Anna stumbled back, tripping over a crate. Her own reflection shifted too. Its eyes turned black and hollow, its lips stretching into a thin, eerie smile. "It's some kind of trick," Mike said, his voice trembling. He slammed his fist into the mirror. The glass cracked but didn't shatter. The reflections vanished, leaving only a dark, empty surface. Yet at that moment, the whispering returned. It was everywhere now, seeping from the walls, the floor, the crates. Childlike voices giggled, sang, murmured. "Where are you? Come to us. We're waiting." Anna grabbed Mike's arm and they bolted for the ladder. But when they reached the bedroom, the floorboards were back in place, as if untouched. Mike tried to lift one again, but it wouldn't budge, like it had been nailed shut. That night, the voices grew louder. They weren't just whispering anymore. They were calling their names. "Anna, Mike, come down to us." Mike stopped dismissing it. He sat on the bed, clutching the flashlight, staring into the dark. Anna noticed their shadows on the wall twitching, even though the light was steady. Mike's shadow raised a hand he hadn't moved. Anna's leaned forward, as if peering into her face. "We're leaving," Mike said finally. "Right now." They packed in a frenzy, abandoning anything non-essential. The car sputtered but started, and as they peeled out onto the dirt road, Anna glanced back. In the bedroom window, she saw two figures, vague, blurry, but unmistakably child-sized. They stood still, watching her go. For a while, life in Rochester felt normal. They rented an apartment, trying to put the house behind them. But a week later, Anna noticed her shadow stretching longer than it should. It lagged behind her movements, sometimes lingering when she walked away. Mike started complaining too. His reflection in the bathroom mirror blinked when he didn't. One night, Anna woke to the familiar whisper. "Where are you?" echoed inside her skull. She flicked on the light and screamed. Under the bed lay a small mirror, an exact replica of the one from the crawl space. Mike snatched it and hurled it out the window, but by morning, it was back in the same spot. They decided to return to the house and destroy the room beneath the floor. Mike grabbed a gas can, determined to burn the place down. When they arrived, the house looked different, lived in. The windows sparkled, and a pair of child-sized sneakers sat on the porch. Inside, it smelled not of dampness, but of fresh-baked cookies. The bedroom floorboards were pried open, the ladder descending into darkness. Mike went first, carrying the gas can. Anna stayed above, shining the flashlight. Suddenly, the beam died, and Mike's scream pierced the silence. When the light flickered back on, the ladder was empty. Mike was gone. The voices erupted into laughter, high-pitched and mocking. Anna ran for the car, but it wouldn't start. In the rearview mirror, her reflection grinned, though tears streamed down her face. The next day, a neighbor from the nearby village noticed the house was abandoned again. Dust coated the windows. Weeds choked the porch. No trace of the young couple remained. Only at night, if you listened closely, could you hear a faint whisper from below. "Where are you?" The window that watches. Emily Harper had always wanted a fresh start. When she stumbled across a listing for a fixer-upper in the sleepy town of Willow Creek, Vermont, she couldn't resist. The house was a steal, $50,000 for a 2-story Victorian with a wraparound porch, perched on a wooded lot just outside town. Sure, it needed work. The paint was peeling, the roof sagged, and the windows rattled in their frames. But Emily saw potential in its bones. The realtor, a wiry man named Tom with a nervous laugh, seemed eager to offload it. He breezed through the tour, pointing out the original hardwood floors and the stone fireplace, but hesitated when they reached the second floor. "There's a window up here," he said, gesturing to a stretch of wall in the hallway covered with weathered planks. Been boarded up for years. Previous owners didn't want it opened. No idea why. His smile faltered, and he quickly changed the subject. Emily didn't press him. She figured it was just old housequirks, maybe a broken pane or a drafty seal. She signed the papers that afternoon, dreaming of cozy nights by the fire and a garden in the spring. The boarded window was the least of her worries. The first week was a whirlwind of unpacking and repairs. She scrubbed decades of grime from the kitchen, patched holes in the drywall, and hauled junk from the attic. The house creaked and groaned, as old houses do, but it felt alive, like it was settling into her presence. At night, the silence of Willow Creek wrapped around her. Only the chirp of crickets and the rustle of trees broke the stillness. She slept deeply, exhausted, but content. That changed on the 8th night. Emily woke to a faint tapping. It was soft, rhythmic, like someone rapping their knuckles on a tabletop. She sat up, blinking in the dark, trying to place it. The sound wasn't coming from downstairs or the walls. It was above her, from the hallway. She grabbed her phone, using its light to guide her as she crept out of the bedroom. The tapping grew clearer as she approached the boarded-up window. It wasn't knuckles. It was sharper, like fingernails scraping glass. She pressed her ear to the planks. The sound stopped. For a moment, she wondered if she'd imagined it, but then it started again, slower, deliberate. Tap, tap, tap. A chill ran down her spine. She stepped back, heart pounding, and told herself it was just a branch brushing the house. But the next morning, she checked outside. The nearest tree was 20 feet away, too far to reach. Uneasy, Emily decided to investigate. She found a crowbar in the shed and returned to the hallway. The boards were old, splintered, and nailed tight, but she wedged the metal tip under one and pried. It came loose with a groan, revealing a pristine window pane beneath. No cracks, no smudges, just clear glass, glinting in the daylight. She pulled the rest of the boards off, puzzled. Why seal up a perfectly good window? She peered out. The view should have shown her backyard, a tangle of weeds and pines sloping down to a creek. Instead, she saw a field. Not her field, not any field she recognized. It stretched endlessly under a thick gray fog, flat and featureless except for a cluster of shadowy figures standing far off in the distance. They were too vague to make out. Dark silhouettes, humanoid, but still. Emily squinted, leaning closer. Were they facing her? She couldn't tell. A trick of the light, she thought, or maybe an optical illusion from the glass. She tapped the pane. It felt solid, cold. Shrugging it off, she went back to her day, though the image lingered in her mind. That night, the tapping returned. Louder this time, insistent. Emily bolted upright, fumbling for her phone. The sound was unmistakable now. Nails on glass, right behind that window. She stumbled into the hallway, shining the light. The window was dark, but the fog outside glowed faintly, like it was lit from within. The figures were there again, closer now. She could see them better. Tall, thin, their heads tilted slightly upward, watching her. "Who's out there?" she called, her voice trembling. No answer, just the tapping, steady and relentless. She grabbed a broom and banged it against the glass, hoping to scare off whatever prankster was out there. The sound stopped. The figures didn't move. She backed away, locking her bedroom door, and spent the night with the lights on. By morning, the field was gone. The window showed her backyard again, overgrown and ordinary. Emily exhaled, convincing herself it was a nightmare bleeding into reality. But when she swept the hallway, she found faint streaks of mud on the floor, leading from the window to her bedroom door. She scrubbed them away, pulse racing, and decided not to look out that window again. It didn't matter. The tapping came every night after that. Always around 2 a.m. UAM. Always the same rhythm. Each time she'd find the field waiting, the figures inching closer. Their shapes grew sharper, gaunt limbs, tattered clothes, faces hidden in shadow. She tried covering the window with a blanket, but the sound cut through. She nailed the boards back up, but they were on the floor again by morning, the nails scattered like someone had yanked them out. A week in, Emily woke to silence. No tapping, no sound at all. Relieved, she tiptoed to the hallway. The window was fogged over, condensation dripping down the glass. She wiped it with her sleeve and froze. The figures were right outside, pressed against the pane. Hollow eyes stared through her, black voids where faces should have been. Their hands, pale and bony, scratched at the glass, leaving faint trails. She screamed and ran downstairs, barricading herself in the living room until dawn. When the sun rose, the window was normal again, but the floor was different. Muddy footprints, bare, human-sized, tracked from the window down the stairs, stopping at the couch where she'd slept. Emily called Tom, the realtor, sobbing into the phone. "What's wrong with this house?" she demanded. He sighed, his voice low. "I didn't want to scare you off. Last owner said that window showed things that weren't there. Said it started watching them back. They left in a hurry. I thought it was just stories. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have bought it?" He paused. "Look, I'll refund you half. Just don't go back." Emily didn't need convincing. She packed a bag and drove to a motel in town. That night she dreamed of the field. Endless, foggy, with the figures circling her, whispering her name. She woke to find mud on her shoes, though she hadn't left the room. Desperate, she returned to the house one last time. She brought a sledgehammer, determined to smash the window and end it. The hallway was cold, the air heavy. The window gleamed, unblemished, showing the field again. The figures were gone. She raised the hammer and swung. The glass shattered with a deafening crack, shards raining down. For a moment she felt triumphant, until the fog began seeping in. It poured through the broken frame, thick and icy, filling the hallway. The whispering started, low, overlapping voices chanting her name. "Emily, Emily, Emily." She dropped the hammer and ran, but the fog followed, spilling down the stairs, curling around her ankles. The front door wouldn't budge. The windows downstairs fogged over, and through them, she saw the field. Not her street, not Willow Creek, just that endless gray expanse. The tapping came again, from every wall, every door. She sank to the floor, clutching her head as the voices grew louder. When the fog cleared, the house was silent. The window upstairs was whole again, boards back in place, as if she'd never touched it. A week later, a new "for sale" sign went up in front of the house. Emily was gone. Locals whispered about lights flickering in the windows at night, about muddy footprints appearing on the porch. But no one dared look too long at the second-floor hallway, where the window waited, watching. That's all for now. Thanks for listening, all the way to the end. If you enjoyed these stories, leave a like, subscribe, and share this with someone who still thinks horror is just fiction. The scariest things happen when you think it's all over. I'll see you very soon. And don't forget, check under the bed before you sleep.